Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Dan Kasper Show is on your airwaves, radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up there. You got your Google and Alexa home devices, Sports Talk app, video stream also up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Happy Thursday if you're already up and at it early this morning. Big thanks for making us a part of your day, part of your morning here. What do we got on that good old game plan of ours here? Well, Brewers picking up a W. Took another extra inning for it to happen. And, Rockies put up that run in the 10th, but the Brewers able to get a walk-off victory, 2 runs in the 10th to get the 7-6 victory, winning the series against the Rockies. Now getting set for a road trip that'll begin starting tomorrow against the White Sox for 3 games before that big stretch starting next week where you've got stops against the Dodgers and the Texas Rangers. But Brewers escaping with a win yesterday and escaping with a series win over the Rockies and getting a little bit of help too. Both Cubbies and Reds losing yesterday. So now the Brewers are up 2.5 on the division, or 2.5 up in the division, over the Reds and the Cubs. So opportunity, you would think, for the Brewers to win another series coming up here for the White Sox starting tomorrow. But off day today for the Crew so they can prepare for that. Adrian Hauser yesterday went 5 innings, giving up 4 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. Monasterio keeps hitting, clutch hitting, walk-off hit yesterday, couple hits for the rookie there. Bryce Terang, another rookie, adding a couple of hits to it as well. Mark Canha with a clutch hits, little redemption for him yesterday. Christian Yelich also collecting a couple hits to move his average up to 290. Willie Adames was back in the lineup, and he finally picked up another home run, team leading 18 for the Crew this season. So maybe, just maybe, with Willie Adames taking a couple days off and getting back into that lineup yesterday and hitting that home run, maybe some confidence can start to brew for him, and he can be a little bit more of a consistent threat within that lineup. Definitely could use him in that top half, no doubt about it. So we'll talk some baseball. Take a look around the baseball world as we're getting close to where we at. Brewers are sitting at 62 and 54, 116 games in. Still got a few more to go to finish up this third quarter of the regular season. They're about 71.6, 72% completed through the season. So we're not quite entering the fourth quarter of the regular season here for the Crew, but we're getting close. Getting close there. So, but we'll talk some baseball and Brewers baseball and take a look across the entire Major League. Twinnies falling last night to the Tigers. We had a no-hitter from the Phillies, Michael Lorenzen, who was just acquired by the Phillies a couple weeks ago there. So, had another no-hitter last night. 14th, I think. Yeah, 14th in Phillies history. So, but we'll take a gander around the Major League Baseball world coming up here. Also, Packers practice number 1 in the books against the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. Had a little fireworks going there. Elton Jenkins had to be escorted off the field after getting into a scuffle. Not once, but twice yesterday. His good buddy and teammate David Bakhtiari kind of having fun with it. Said the first one was not Elton Jenkins' fault. Second one was definitely Elton Jenkins' fault there. But first one, Jenkins taking out a linebacker on a pass play. The linebacker apparently took offense to it and then jawed with the defensive lineman later on and slapped him in the helmet and then had to be escorted off the practice field. So tempers flaring a little bit, which is every coach's concern when they get into some joint practices over there. So, but nonetheless, the positive, I guess, to come from it, if you want to look at it this way, is many Bengals players had some nice things, some positive things to say about Jordan Love. You know, had Mike Hilton corner for the Bengals, saying really strong arm. Obviously, that's what he's been known for, but you can tell he's seeing things a little slower and his process is a little faster. So I feel like Green Bay got a good one. Jermaine, was that? Nope. That's about something else there. But yeah, you got a couple other Bengals players singing the praises or very complimentary towards Jordan Love, which, if you're a Packers fan, you probably like to hear that. Maybe some are like, yeah, what else are they just gonna, kind of knock him down? And I mean, they're obviously good. I saw some people on like social media saying, well, obviously they're not going to say anything negative about him, and especially when they're there at camp and that sort of thing. But I thought it was some good stuff out there. Jordan Love also saying after practice that the plan is for him to get a couple of series in against the Bengals on Friday night. So um, do expect to see Jordan Love in that offense. Don't know if everybody from the number one offense is going to be out there tomorrow night for the Packers, but Jordan Love, expect him to be out there. So we'll talk some Packers. We'll talk a little green and gold coming up here a little bit later on too. Kind of the highlights from the practice yesterday. So we'll hit that up. Also, I had a chance yesterday to chat with former major leaguer and Major League Baseball player and former Major League Baseball coach, hitting coach, Eau Claire native Tom Poquette. It is Tom Poquette bobblehead night at the Express game Saturday night. So I had a chance to chat with him for an extended conversation yesterday. Maybe some of you have already checked it out on the podcast, whether it was the Man Cave podcast or the All Aboard, the Eau Claire Express podcast that we do as well. But an extended conversation, if you want to listen to that, we'll play a clip of it, a portion of it coming up next hour. But if you like history, you like baseball history, and just hearing some stories from back in the day, it's a good conversation. It's a fun conversation. So we're going to play a portion of that coming up in the next hour as well. But if you want to hear the entire chat, the entire interview, you can check it out on the Man Cave podcast or the All Aboard, the Eau Claire Express podcast. It was uploaded yesterday. So it was my first time chatting with him and meeting with him too. So it was, I'm a sports history nut. You all know that. I love hearing stories from back in the day. And there's some good ones on there that Mr. Poquette was able to share with us from his playing days and coaching days and all that sort of stuff there too. So, but a longtime member with the Kansas City Royals, spent some time with Boston too, and even was close to joining that 82 Brewers team. It sounds like we'll play that portion coming up next hour. Also, 8:30 this morning. It is our outdoor tidbits with Jake Bolks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden Jake Bolks. So if you have any questions that you want to ask DNR Warden, this is your chance to do it. Okay, we got I know the antlerless tag sales coming up, and next month's already the opener of bow season, for crying out loud. So hunting season, maybe if you're up early in the mornings like I am, you can kind of those little bit of a cooler starts to the morning, kind of getting in that hunting mode. So if you got any questions that you want to ask Jake, hit us up right now on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line with some texts, 715-830-1912. Again, 715-830-1912. We'll do a little receiver defer coming up at around 7:40, 7:45 this morning, as we usually do every Thursday morning. So we'll hit that up on there too. So, but we got plenty to get to here on the game plan. We'll open up things, chatting some baseball, taking a look at the Brewers win yesterday, winning the series against the Colorado Rockies. Now up 2.5, thanks to a little bit of help from the Mets and such, but now up 2.5 on both the Reds and the Chicago Cubs in the standings. If you're looking at everything kind of where it's at, playoff chase And in that it's Philly, San Francisco, and now Miami back into the wild card chase, but both the Cubs and the Reds just a half game out for that for a wild card spot in the National League. Arizona losing 8 games in a row, now 2.5 back from a wild card spot here. American League, you got Seattle still just 2 back, Boston 5 back, Yankees 5.5 back. Not a whole lot changing there in the American League, but it sure looks like in this National League, it's going to be a race to the finish here, whether it's for the NL Central Division. I guess, don't count out maybe with the Giants trying to chase the Dodgers. They're still a few back, but I guess don't never say never, maybe. But definitely going to be, I think, a wild finish here for that maybe that final wild card spot in the National League, and by default, the National League Central championship too. So we'll chat about the Brewers off day today. So we'll just recap the win from yesterday and take a look at the baseball world. There had another no hitter. I got a trivia question coming up for you. So I know we once in a while we'll do a little pop quiz questions to get your brains flowing early on in the morning. So we'll get to that. See how well you know your baseball history. All right. See how well you know your baseball history. So let's get things going here this morning. We'll take that first break. And then coming up on the leadoff, we open up things this morning on this Thursday morning of August 10th, chatting a little baseball after these quick words. With the football season getting ready to kick off here, pro football season, NFL season, don't forget to be a member of our Sports Talk Insiders. It's free. It takes you, if you're not a member, it takes you like a few seconds to sign up online at sportstalk1051.com. But that way you can participate in our pro football pick'em challenge. All right, that thing's going to open up here towards the end of the month, towards the end of August here. So you want some bragging rights, and I think we've got even some prizes we're going to be giving away here at the end of the season of that. But make sure that you are a member of the Sports Talk Insiders, again, by visiting sportstalk1051.com. Click on the Win tab when you're at the homepage there. And then once that page opens up, you're going to have a form out there. And all you got to do is just click that. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done. And while you're there, you can check out the prize dugout. There's some tickets up there for Oktoberfest coming up September 15th through the 16th at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. So you can check that all out. But again, our Pro Football Pick'em Challenge will open up coming up at the end of the month here. All right, let's get things going here this morning. Chatting some Brewers baseball in general to open up things. Thanks for showing up there, intern. Appreciate it.
Always on time, on schedule, and here we are.
Look at that.
Look
Look at that. I like that. Did you take the putter? Because it's not in there.
No, I took it. I saw it in there, and they told me it was there. And
I just want to make sure nobody stole it.
No, my son wants to use it this weekend, so I thought I'd better take it home for him.
He actually wants to use that thing, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Perfectly weighted.
Is he golfing around here? Or?
Yeah, he's coming up this weekend, so hopefully we can sneak out to play 9.
Nice. Well, hopefully the weather holds up for you guys
too.
I hope so. But
and a lot of fairs going on, and
that's right.
All kinds of stuff.
Is it Rusk County this week?
Rusk County. I'll be up in Ladysmith later today. As a matter of fact, I'll be leaving here and going up to the fair up there. Also, the Clark County Fair in Neillsville, the Pierce County Fair over in Ellsworth. So lots going on. Wisconsin State Fair continues. Governor's auction last night. Expensive hamburger sold a grand champion steer for $40,000.
Holy moly!
Hog for $19,000. Champion lamb for $15,000.
That better be some good meat.
It is, believe me, it is.
But let's talk some baseball here coming up. Brewers with the walk-off victory yesterday. Now 2.5 up in the division over both the Reds and the Cubs, thanks to a little bit of help from other teams out there.
I was coming home last night, and I was listening to the Mets and the Cubs, and Cubs almost came back in the 9th inning. Boy, oh boy, it was 4-2, and they had runners on second and third, and Mets shut them down. So 4-3 win for the Mets over the Cubs.
Yep. Off day today, though, for the Crew as they get ready to begin their road trip. That'll start tomorrow with a quick stop a little south of Milwaukee against the White Sox, and then that big road trip next week that begins with a series with the Dodgers, and then right after that, 3-game series with the Texas Rangers before returning home to face the Minnesota Twins for their 2 games in a couple weeks. They'll be back in Milwaukee on August 22nd for that game against the Twins there. So
tough schedule.
It is a very tough schedule coming up here for the Brewers, and maybe another good test for the Crew, especially now that they've got their pitching staff a little bit more healthy with Brandon Woodruff back and Wade Miley back. Wade Miley looks like he's good to go from his last couple outings. So I think I'm excited. I don't want to get too far ahead because you got to win this series against the White Sox. You got to take advantage of these teams and win the Dodgers and the Texas Rangers to see how they match up with those offenses.
Yeah, because they do have solid offenses, that's for sure. And again, I'm not as worried about the pitching staff as I am our offense. I mean, we've just got to score more runs. Just got to take pressure. And what we always say, put pressure on the defense. That's what they did. And that's how they won the game yesterday. Colorado threw the ball around.
Yep. Well, exactly. You had the youngsters yesterday again, kind of leading the way. Bryce Terang collecting a couple of hits. Monasterio with the big hit at the end. He also collected a couple of hits. His average is back up to a 290 right now. He's he's still making a case for more playing time and keeping him in the lineup because of his bat. Willie Adames was back in the lineup after taking off a couple days. He hit a home run yesterday. Yelich continuing his solid season, collecting a couple hits at the top of the lineup there. OPS up to an 843, average 290 as well. Overall, Brewers collecting 10 total team hits yesterday in their victory against the Rockies. Adrian Hauser went 5 innings, striking out 5, but giving up 4 earned runs on 5 hits yesterday too. So I thought you were. I thought you were
well,
going to say
I mean, there's a lot of things we could say about this team, but the bottom line is they're in first place. As frustrating as that offense is, and sometimes some of the things that happen, but they're in first place.
Yep, exactly.
And I don't care what the division is. When you're in first place, all you got to do is beat the teams that are put in front of you.
Don't apologize for your
No,
wins.
Absolutely not.
Yep, don't apologize for your wins. So, but you had looking across Major League Baseball, you had another no-hitter yesterday, which is going to lead to my trivia question for everybody. Once in a while, I like to do a pop quiz trivia question to get people's minds flowing and test their knowledge here. All right. So the Phillies, 14th no-hitter in their team history. Nobody try to look it up. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Which team has the most no-hitters in Major League Baseball history?
Whoa, that's a good question. Well, it's got to be one of the old traditional teams.
So we know the pitcher who has the most no-hitters, Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you missed it, but yesterday I had a chance for a long convo with Tom Poquette.
Oh, I did? Oh, I didn't hear that.
So we're going to play a portion of that next hour.
Good.
Because it's Tom Poquette bobblehead day at the Express on Saturday.
Oh, great.
And he talks a little bit about facing Nolan Ryan and such on there. So we'll hear that. You'll enjoy it because he's very kind of like similar mindset of, I don't want to necessarily say small ball, but moving, because he was a hitting coach at the major league level too.
Oh yeah, he was.
So,
really a great hitter.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll hear a little bit of that, but he talked about Nolan Ryan in our portion here too. So, but can you imagine? It's
Von Ryan's Express, they used to call that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But if anybody wants to wager a guess of what team has the most total no-hitters, you can text us at 715-830-1912. You want to wager a guess?
Well, I'd have to guess one of the old traditional teams. It's not going to be even though Ryan pitched for the Texas Rangers, I'd be shocked if it was one of the newer teams. I would think it'd have to be like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Giants or Cardinals or somebody like that. But I couldn't tell you exactly which one it is.
You want to wager a guess? Or do you want to think about it for a little bit?
Let me think about it for a little bit. Go through the different teams and see what I come back with the pitchers and and Ryan's got the most, but I don't know. I really don't know. It's a pure guess. But like I said, I'd have to first of all narrow it down to, is that a correct narrowing down to a traditional team like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, Cardinals?
I'll give you a hint, and yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought it would have to be. So
yeah, just
let me think about it.
Not to ruin it for everybody, it's not the Brewers. So it's not the Brewers.
I'll think about it and send you a screenshot.
Yeah, okay. How many do you think the Brewers have? Would you guess how many team no-hitters the Brewers have?
I don't think it's more than 2 or 3.
It's 2. If you can count, they count it, the combined one from Burns and Hader.
Yeah.
Then Juan Neves, was the other one. That's it.
Yeah, I know they didn't have many. I thought maybe Teddy Higuera, but no. Juan Nieves is the other one?
Nieves, yep. Juan Nieves is the other one. If you want and I know some will say, well, that's the only one because some don't count it. But officially, I'm going based off of what baseball counts as official. It's 2 with the combined one. One pitcher, though, has the Juan Nieves is the other one.
Did they ever get Corbin Burns' reaction to not being given a chance to finish that? Or I don't remember the circumstances. I don't know if he got hurt or something, but
it was a pitch count thing there, but I can't remember. It was a couple years ago.
You got to give the guy a chance at history. You don't pull him out.
But I'd have to look it up. I don't remember it from back then. So, but I'll give you it's in the 20s. It's in the 20s.
The team?
Yep.
Wow, that's more than I was going to say. About 12 or 15 might be in the 20s. That's unreal.
Because the Phillies have 14 total now, so it's in the 20s. It's in the 20s right now. That's all. Last hint I'll give you there. So, but there are some teams that only have just one no hitter to their resume. Toronto only has one. Tampa Bay only has one.
Are there any teams that don't have any?
I think everybody's got at least one. It looks like on here. I'd have to count on here. 1, 2. I'll do that during the break. But it's not the Twins. They got 7.
Well, the Twins do have 7.
Mhm.
Well, that go back to their days in Washington, and
yeah, their last one was back in 2011. That's their most recent one. I don't know who it is. It just says the date here, 2011. So, all right, 2 teams are actually in the 20s. 2 teams are in the 20s. So, while you guys ponder that, and don't look it up, but you can text us your answers, 715-830-1912. We got quite a few answers coming in here right now, but looking across Major League Baseball, not a whole lot has changed, standings wise, at least in the American League. Baltimore still up there with 70 wins, although their winning is not the main story surrounding Baltimore right now. With their broadcast, I don't know if you that thing. So, but
was that much ado about nothing, or did he say something that really was offensive?
No, all he said was that I'll paraphrase, but he was talking about the Rays, and he said that Baltimore has won more games at Tropicana Field, was it this year, than other years previous. Like, I mean, he was insinuating like Baltimore was not good. Everybody knew that they weren't good. Apparently, ownership took offense to that and suspended him.
Well, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. Good thing they don't. I don't know if that owner listens to sports talk radio or not, but I mean, it was pretty much that. It was like he made a factual statement, didn't really call he was actually if you think about it, he was like, this is how well Baltimore's playing this year. They've won more games here than, but no, they apparently had hurt feelings over that, and he'll be back in the booth on Friday.
You're in the wrong business, because talk radio, they'll say anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
You get into some of these blogs and some of these fire breathers, and you got a thin skin, you're in the wrong business.
Good thing you're not their color commentator. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No,
Baltimore 70 wins. Texas still leading their division over Houston by a couple games. Minnesota still holding on to the AL Central. Tampa Bay, Houston, Toronto, your wild card team. Seattle, they're hot though. They've won 7 in a row. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They're just 2 back from a wild card spot. But Boston and the Yankees and Angels really falling behind right now. So,
yeah, it's time to start scoreboard watching. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is.
National League is going to be interesting coming up here. Atlanta they're on a tear right now with 72 wins, the most in Major League Baseball. Dodgers, 67 wins, leading their division. San Francisco's a few back there at 62. They're on a wild card spot. We know Milwaukee's first place in the Central, but your wild card teams right now in the National League: Philadelphia, San Francisco, Miami, Cubs, Cincinnati, just a half game out. Arizona, losers of 8 in a row right now, are 2.5 back. But the Padres, just 4.5 back right now. Maybe kind of keep an eye on the Padres coming up here a little bit. 4.5 is not it's not a big number.
But I'll tell you, there's an owner that should be upset, not the Baltimore owner, because with what he's paying for that Padres lineup and the results he's getting, just 4.5 back, they should be 4.5 ahead.
Yeah. They got a plus 56 run differential, but they're 5 games under 500 right now. So, but I think that National League, it's going to be definitely some scoreboard watching coming up here in the next. Well, we're almost through the third quarter of the regular season. We're about Brewers wise, 71-72% already through the regular season, believe it or not.
And what's their record now after the win yesterday? They got 60 wins now?
62.
62, okay.
Yep, 62-54. They are actually, I'm just kind of looking at more numbers here. They do have a winning record against teams that are over 500. Brewers are 32-20, or 32-30, excuse me. To compare it to some other teams, Philly is 500 against teams who are 500 or better. Miami, who's in a wild card spot, 27-34. And then, Twins are 27-35 against teams who are 500 and better. So I'm just kind of looking at playoff teams right now. Here's an interesting nugget. Houston, just one game over 500 against teams who are 500 or better. The Houston Astros. So I thought I always kind of like to look at those. Atlanta just, 39-23 and still dominating right now. Baltimore 46-37 against teams who have a record of 500 or better. So, Brewers are, 2 games over 500 against teams with winning records right now.
Acuna Jr., and I don't hear his name a lot. You think Acuna Jr. should be in the conversation for MVP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if he is getting much of that, but he should.
Let me look up the odds here for you. What's the latest Vegas odds for the AL is Ohtani. No kidding right there, right? Holy moly.
Yeah, and he did it again last night.
Acuna Jr. is the odds-on favorite for National League.
Yeah, I think right now he deserves it. I'll tell you, he reminds me of when Ricky Henderson used to get on. You'd walk Ricky Henderson, it's a double.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Acuna. You walk him and he's gone.
Yep. Freddie Freeman, second. Mookie Betts, third. Matt Olson, 4.
He deserves some recognition.
Mm-hmm.
What has he got, an RBI in 25 or 28 straight games or something he had? I don't know if that's been broken or not, but what a bonus trade.
Right.
How did Atlanta get him out of Oakland for literally nothing?
Mm-hmm. They got Sean Murphy on there too. He's got the 5th best odds. Bryce Harper's on here. Not sure about that.
He hasn't even played enough to be recognized for that.
But if you're a Dodger or you're a Brave, your odds are that you got a chance to win the NL MVP this year. Christian Yelich is on this list. He's a little further, but he is listed as odds on various.
What about Bellinger from the Cubs?
Bellinger's higher than Yelich. He is actually Bellinger. Again, so Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, and then it's Bellinger. So I'm not sure.
I'm surprised both Soto and Bryce Harper are on there because, boy, I'll tell you, they've had some down moments, so to speak, this year.
And I wonder if a lot of it is just name recognition.
That's possible.
These are Vegas odds and, people putting bets on and all that sort of stuff. So I think a lot of it's just name recognition at this point. You throw in a Bryce Harper and a Juan Soto and, that sort of stuff. But, Juan Soto was the opening day odds on favorite to be the National League MVP. Acuna was the 4th odds on favorite to be that MVP. But you're right. The way he's playing so far this year, and then, Ohtani's still doing Ohtani things. And now they're starting to kind of do a little Triple Crown watch with some of these guys like Ohtani and such. So I don't know if he'll get there. I think he's like, was it last I saw, it might have been average. He was like 3rd or 4th highest or something like that.
But is it fair? What if he wins the home run, wins the RBI, and has most wins as a pitcher in the American League? I don't know where he is on that, but if he leads the 3 categories, you consider that some kind of a Triple Crown as well?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I don't know. They probably wouldn't, because one's like considered defense sort of thing on there. But
wow, if he would do that, just think of the contract. This is a guy that's going to win the Mega Millions lottery. Mega Millions lottery is going to take home $700 million plus. So is Ohtani for just playing baseball. Wow.
I'd like him on my team, though.
Oh, my goodness. He is going to get a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, all right. Tell you what, let's take a quick break, and then I'll tell you the answer to your pop quiz trivia question.
Yeah, I got to know here. I'm thinking the Braves, because I'm thinking Spahn and Burdette, and then they had great pitchers, the threesome there of those guys that won one World Series for him, but I don't know if they threw many no-hitters. I don't know. That's a good mind-teasing question this morning.
All right, now I got you
animated. Yeah, you do. You got me excited to find out who those teams are that have the most no-hitters for their history.
If you're just joining us, that was the question. Don't look it up. Try your best. Don't cheat. Text us what team has the most no-hitters in Major League Baseball. We know the individual, it's Nolan Ryan. We're looking for the team that has the most no-hitters I'll tell you after we take this quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, so you ready to figure this out? You gonna wager a guess?
I want to take a flyer.
Okay.
Baltimore Orioles.
You're gonna go Baltimore on that list. All right, so Baltimore has 10 no-hitters on there.
Well, maybe not Baltimore.
The second place team with so there was 2 teams I said that had 20 no-hitters pitched, right?
20 plus.
20 plus, yep. Chicago White Sox are second at 20.
The White Sox crossed my mind, and then I'm trying to figure out who all their pitchers were, and I couldn't come up with enough names, but okay.
The number 1 team also has, ironically, the second most no-hitters pitched against them. So no-hitters pitched against. They've had 20 no-hitters pitched against them. But the number 1 team with the most no-hitters, Dodgers.
The Dodgers.
It is the Dodgers.
Okay. That was the first name I wrote down, and I thought, that's too obvious. Then I thought, Jim Palmer and some of those other guys that pitched for Baltimore.
26,
I'm going with Baltimore.
26
to the
no-hitters.
Dodgers.
Yep. You want to know what? So you mentioned Atlanta on this.
Yeah.
They've got 14, but their last no-hitter, 1994.
Yeah.
Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, they don't have no-hitters.
No.
Roger Clemens never had a no-hitter on his resume.
Roger Clemens never had a no-hitter.
Don Sutton doesn't have a no-hitter. None of those guys.
Huh.
Thought that was kind of it. Steve Carlton doesn't have a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How that all kind of
that
works
brings
out.
up a question I'm going to ask for receiver defer that I think is kind of interesting. So we'll save that. But bringing up this, so the Dodgers, I'm not surprised. It was, the Dodgers were the first one that popped into my head, then the Yankees, and I thought, they're too obvious. So I got to go someplace. And for some reason, I put the map of the U.S. in my head and kind of went around, and it had to be on either coast. But and I didn't, I thought of the Cubs. I really didn't consider the White Sox. So that's interesting.
Boston is third at 18. Cubbies are fourth, tied for fourth at 17 with Cincinnati, and the Giants each all have 17 on their team.
Yeah, so the old traditional teams have been around forever.
Let me just kind of take a quick gander. The team that has gone the longest since throwing a no-hitter looks like it's Toronto. 1990 was their last time that they threw a no-hitter. I'd have to look up to see who that is. Or no, I take that back. Cleveland. Cleveland. And this is interesting. Cleveland's got 14 no-hitters, but their last no-hitter pitched was before I was born, 1981.
Wow.
1981. Wow. Okay.
Well, Cleveland hasn't done much to write home about.
So, but yeah, 1981, the last time they threw a no-hitter. So, again, I know some people still won't count the Brewers combined one, but we're going based off of what Major League Baseball officially counts as a no-hitter. So,
well, you look at the box score for the team they played that day, and hits 0. That's a no-hitter.
Yep. So,
because it's 6 guys throwing it, and some teams have had 3 and 4, and I don't know what the record is for the most pitchers and for a team that threw a no-hitter.
That's a good question. I might have to look that up.
I think it's about 3 or 4. I think it's about 4, and I'm trying. And I can see the game in my head, and I can't say who it was or when. But I remember that game. There was about 4 guys to help throw a no-hitter.
I'll have to look that one up. I'm not sure. That's a good question, though. So, obviously we were talking about Nolan Ryan and, his no-hitters at 7. I mean, I think that's another record. I don't know if anybody's going to surpass,
Well, I'll give you my receiver defer right now.
Receiver vacuum cleaner going on out there or something? You hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. I don't know what it is.
Is it Murph doing something out there? Probably.
Maybe we're on fire and that's a hole. We can't see out of these studios. But receiver defer, we'll do this now. And I don't know how many one-hitters Ryan had, but receiver defer, what's more impressive? Nolan Ryan throwing 7 no-hitters plus I don't know how many one-hitters, or Jack Nicklaus winning 18 majors and finishing second about 12 or 15 times as well. You talk about 2 iconic performers and, 7 no-hitters, 18 majors, plus the number of one-hitters and the number of second-place finishes that Jack Nicklaus had in the majors.
So I just Googled it. Jack Nicklaus holds the record for most runner-up finishes in a major with 19.
Okay.
19.
That's 37, 1 or 2.
Yeah, he holds the record for most top 5 finishes in major championships with 56.
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan one-hitters. He's got 12. Gosh,
Isn't that something?
I got to think about that one for a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're both mind-boggling, but
yeah,
I'm kind of leaning towards Nolan Ryan. I really am, but I mean,
the thing is, like,
I could listen to arguments in either case.
I think the one thing too, Ryan, and I'm not discrediting it. Ryan also had some defense behind him where Jack, I mean, he's by himself, right? I mean, it's an individual sport, but I don't know. I have to think about that one a little bit.
Yeah,
Holy
I mean,
moly.
two pretty impressive careers.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ryan gets enough. Jack Nicklaus obviously is the icon, Jack and Tiger. And then it's Arnold and Gary Player and Ben Hogan and Sam Snead and the rest of them. But Nolan Ryan, is he on the Mount Rushmore of the best pitchers? I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
That I think that's an interesting question. Like, who's one of the all-time greats but doesn't maybe get enough credit? You know what I mean? Like, one of the best players in any sport, who's like an all-time great but still doesn't get enough credit or recognition.
And one of the things about Ryan, the teams he played on, when he played for the Mets, they weren't very good. They traded him away just before they got great, and back in the day of Seaver and the rest of them. But and then he went to Texas, and he was with Houston,
Anaheim a little bit.
Yeah, and they weren't all that good at teams, and so I think he gets a little short-sheeted, so to speak, as far as how great he really was. Because you mentioned, he had a defense behind him. Sometimes they weren't very good.
Right.
So I just, those are two of the most unbelievable career records. It wasn't a one season or a 1 year deal where, and I just, those two are mind boggling to me.
Yeah. I got to think about that one a little bit.
Yeah. Which one? I suppose it depends on which sport you like the best.
That too. Yeah, it could be. How about we open that up for listeners too? They can make their picks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Text it. Which one do you want to rephrase the question again for?
Which is more impressive? Nolan Ryan in baseball, 7 no-hitters, 12 one-hitters. Jack Nicklaus in golf, 18 major wins and 19 second-place finishes.
In majors.
Yeah, in majors. Yeah, right. And not just a vote, but put a little defense of your answer a little bit. Why you think one or the other is more impressive?
That's a really good. Well done, intern. Take the rest of the day off.
I wish I could. I got a long day today, buddy.
That's a good question. I got to think about that one for a little bit. Interesting. Oh, but man, I keep going back and forth in my head on that one. All right. So we're going to talk some more baseball history coming up next hour. If you haven't had a chance, it was about a 45-minute convo with Mr. Tom Poquette in our podcast that's up there, but we'll play a portion of it coming up next hour. He talks about Nolan Ryan facing Nolan Ryan.
I can't imagine. You ever been? I was in a batting cage in Baltimore one time, and they had the pitching speed set to Jim Palmer's fastball.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, well, I want to try it. I got in there, and I think they threw, for what you paid, I don't know, they threw it 5 or 10 balls at you. I hit 2. Which I was darn proud of.
Yeah, I would be.
And because the average guy, you think, well, I played semi-pro ball, but that's a long way from facing Jim Palmer. But and a little older I was, but still in all, you see that ball coming, and it's and he's not throwing 102 like Aroldis Chapman or some of these guys nowadays. But and in a batter's box or in a batting cage, the ball's going over the plate. If you're standing on the home in the dugout or on the batter's box rather, and this guy's out there throwing that hard, there's no guarantee it's going over the plate. It's quite a feat, I'll tell you. And Nolan Ryan too. I mean, he intimidated hitters. I think the only guy that he faced that he never struck out was Tony Gwynn. I think I heard that. Maybe you said it or talked about it. I heard that one time, and I don't know, but over multiple times, somebody like that. So
I gotta look that up.
But those two guys are iconic, and I just think those accomplishments were, Brady's wins. That's in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't take anything away from him, but that's a different setting, a different situation, And I just think Nolan Ryan and Jack Nicklaus are head and shoulders above everybody else.
So I just Googled it. The pitcher that struck out Tony Gwynn the most was Nolan Ryan.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody.
But it was still like so Nolan Ryan struck out Gwynn the most times, 9, but it took 67 matchups.
Yeah.
So I mean that
maybe
number
that was a relationship, but
yeah, against all other pitchers, Ryan struck out hitters at a roughly 25% rate. Tony Gwynn was 13.4.
Yeah, maybe that's the gate or the number that I had heard, but just a remarkable arm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, just a couple minutes here, then we'll get cut off here, but we'll kick off the second hour with some more sports nuggets of the day. We'll chat a little football as well, joint practices. Got a little skirmishy yesterday between the Packers and the Bengals.
It always does. Yeah. What do you think? Anytime these teams play somebody else, they're gonna I'll show you type of an attitude with some of these guys, and it always seems like in the defensive line and the offensive line.
Oh yeah, that's Elton Jenkins had to be escorted after getting involved in 2 of them yesterday. So what did the Bengals have to say about Jordan Love? We'll get to some comments from some Bengals players about Jordan Love's play yesterday. First preseason game tomorrow for the Packers as they get set to take on the Bengals. So we'll talk a little football there too. We are just almost 3 weeks away from kickoff for the Badgers. Just a quick update on some realignment. There was that momentum possibly about Stanford and Cal joining the ACC. Apparently, according to reports last night, ACC presidents and all that's kind of put that on pause right now. It sounds like they won't be going to the ACC. So now more speculation out there. Could the Big Ten add those 2 teams to make it 20?
I'm surprised they didn't already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cal and Stanford, iconic universities, the academics increase your visibility and your credibility. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
I agree, man. So maybe it is now. Who knows? But all right, one in. We got a couple more to go. We'll be back after these quick news updates. Second hour kicking off on this Thursday morning, August 10th. What up, everybody? Good morning, and appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Coming up this hour, we'll play a portion of my conversation with former Major League Baseball player and coach Tom Poquette. It is Tom Poquette bobblehead night at the Eau Claire Express game on Saturday. Extended conversation available on our podcast, Man Cave Podcast, or the All Aboard, the Eau Claire Express podcast. You can check that out. We'll just play a portion of it, a little bit of a tease portion of it coming up here in just a little bit. Also, we got some receive or defer coming at the back end of this hour. Next hour, we've got Jake Bolks, our conservation warden buddy, for our outdoor tidbits that we do every Thursday morning at 8:30. So with hunting season approaching, bow season opening up next month, if you got any questions for a DNR warden, this is your chance to do it. Hit us up with those questions on the Shoe Doctor's bullpen line with some text at 715-830-1912. Again, 715-830-1912. Let's do some sports nuggets of the day brought to you by Ansay Associates. It was 1947. William Odom completed an around-the-world flight. He set the solo record by completing the flight in 73 hours and 5 minutes. 1973, Arnold Palmer did not make the cut for the final two rounds of the PGA Golf Championship. It was the first time in his career that happened. 1981. Pete Rose hit a single and broke the National League all-time hit record with his 3,630th hit. Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day. Again, brought to you by Ansay Associates. Packers and Bengals had their first joint practice yesterday in Cincinnati. Highlighted probably, one of the main highlights was probably the little scuffles going on between the two. And one common theme that seemed to be involved in it was Elton Jenkins. He was tossed out of the joint practice for fighting a couple times, for a couple times there. First one, it sounded like he was, he blocked a linebacker to the ground. Linebacker didn't like it. So there was a scuffle there. Then the second time, he was getting into a little bit of a verbal argument with defensive tackle DJ Reader, and I guess Elton Jenkins ended up slapping him in the helmet, and then there's another scuffle there. So Elton Jenkins was escorted out of practice. So that was probably the main highlight. But if you're wondering about Jordan Love and how he performed at practice yesterday, well, a couple of comments from some Bengals players on what they thought from what they've seen from Jordan Love. Mike Hilton, cornerback. I also got a pick off of Jordan Love yesterday in practice. But Mike Hilton had this to say about Jordan Love. Real strong arm. Obviously, that's what he's been known for, but you can tell he's seen things a little slower and his process is a little faster. So I feel like Green Bay got a good one. That was according to Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic. Ryan Wood from PackersNews.com, speaking of DJ Reader, the defensive tackle, he said that he was impressed with Jordan Love. He seemed more confident under center. He seemed like he was feeling good. The offense was doing what it was doing. He was having a good day. He looked decent back there. He wasn't just running the takeoff, wasn't doing any of that stuff. He was trying to go through his reads. We did a good job of staying off of him. I thought he was decent. He had a good demeanor back there. I look at a lot of quarterbacks and see what they've got going on, especially because I'm right there on the ball. He had a good demeanor and things like that. So there was a couple other comments out there from other Bengals defenders and such, but it seems like there was a lot of good compliments from the Bengals players directed towards Jordan Love, their first impressions from what they've seen from Jordan Love at practice yesterday. Take it for what it's worth, but willing to pass that, or wanted to pass it along from what Bengals players had to say about Jordan Love. Jordan Love did say after practice too that he will be playing in the preseason game coming up on Friday. I know Matt LaFleur was kind of tight-lipped about how much he would play, but Jordan did acknowledge that he will be playing Friday night, which is no big surprise at this point. So
No, it'd be a bigger surprise that he wasn't playing.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs time. He needs to, and I hope his receivers that are going to be the leading receivers or the starting receivers during the regular season are with him too for at least a quarter. They've got to get some cohesiveness with each other in a game more than practice. And so, I hope all those guys play. I don't want to see them play enough to get hurt, but I would like to see them play at game speed. And while they're still preseason games, they are games, and it's going to be against live competition. You're going to be a live fire, and so I hope they would play. Be more of a shocking story if he said he wasn't going to play.
Speaking of those Packers receivers, I'm trying to Jermaine Pratt, linebacker for the Bengals, on those Packers receivers. They're young, but they've been in the league for 2 years now. They're ready to go. I think they'll be a good team, good unit. I know they got a lot of backfire from A-Rod, talking about Aaron Rodgers, dropping balls and stuff, but I think they will be ready. So
I hope we can move forward without everything including at least some reference to Aaron Rodgers. He's been a great Green Bay Packer. He did wonderful things for our franchise, but he's gone. Let's focus on who's there. I don't care what Aaron Rodgers thinks anymore. I really don't.
That's not what sells.
I know it. But it's what frustrates people.
Mm-hmm. That's where I'm curious. Like I asked the other day, with Hard Knocks now out there, I know you're up on all the streaming services over there, so you probably have HBO and all that. Yeah. But I don't know if you had a chance to watch the first episode. I haven't watched it. I mean, with Aaron on it, with the Jets, I mean, I'll probably watch it at some point, but it's not must-view watching for me. Like, it's like, oh, I got to watch it as soon as it drops.
I wonder how much restrictions they have as far as including Rodgers in this thing, or if they've got carte blanche to go and do whatever they want in the Jets preseason. And I don't know if it extends into the regular season as well, or if he has some say of enough is enough, stay off of me, stay away from. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how this develops. Is how much is this going to be 75% Rodgers and 25% the rest of the team, or how this is going to work out?
It looked like it set viewer number records, which no surprise again. The first episode dropping. So we'll see. I wish they could have it during the regular season, though, for the first few weeks when the Jets and Broncos played each other. Just the whole Sean Payton sort of thing there. But no, that's not going to be the case. By the way, David Bakhtiari already said it. He's calling his shot. He was asked about Jordan Love yesterday, and his response was Hall of Fame first ballot. So
good. That'll shut up some of the writers and reporters and talking heads.
Well, I know I mentioned it on Tuesday, but if you haven't had a chance to read Albert Breer's latest column for Sports Illustrated, Monday Morning Quarterback, because he was in Green Bay, was last week or this past weekend, but he talked about being at camp and had a little bit of an insight on Jordan Love and that sort of thing. But there was he had talked to Matt LaFleur and all that, but there was a comment from Bakhtiari in that article that I took away the most out of whatever LaFleur had to say and some of those other guys, because we know Bakhtiari obviously very close with Aaron Rodgers, right? Good buddies, and he was very open just a couple months ago on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, saying, hey, people, not expecting a whole lot from us, and he was open minded, but he was very complimentary towards Jordan Love, and the fact that he said what he wanted the most was like consistency, kind of in the huddle, command of the huddle and all that. And he was very complimentary towards Jordan Love, saying what he appreciated the most was, his command in the huddle, the consistency, essentially what I'm summing up here is that, he doesn't seem like the moment's too big or anything like that for Jordan Love. But David Bakhtiari, I thought, had some really good compliments towards his new quarterback, which I take away more than what head coach Matt LaFleur or anybody else or Goody's going to say at that point.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, it's old. Listen to these press conferences. I don't care whether it's Craig Counsell or, the Packer officials, whether, Gutekunst or the coach, you get nothing out of them. You really don't. They're not going to give you anything, and that's the way it is. So when they, everybody that listens, they said, now, if you listen between the lines, well, I'm not going to listen between the lines. I'm going to watch the games and see what happens. And if they, don't give me an honest answer in a press conference after a game, right now press conferences really don't mean much unless they say, David Bakhtiari is going to retire. Well, and then you got some meat on the bone there. But these press conferences now are useless as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And even like with Council, even in the middle of we're in the meat of the season, you don't get a lot from these guys. Now, what goes on in the clubhouse is completely different. And, that's a sacred place. And so, I don't get excited about press conferences. I really don't.
No, I don't either. I mean, they're
LaFleur doesn't say anything. Gutekunst, when
and the thing is,
he doesn't say anything.
They don't want to do those either.
No, I know they don't. They don't want to be there.
Yeah. So here was the portion from Bakhtiari. He said, "You want to have normalcy. I've had guards drop out, and you bring in other guy, and I'm noticing a lot of, come on, if you have a guy that just steps in and the chemistry is there, and we have good fits on our blocks, good communications. He's seen the adjustments. That's exactly what you want from someone stepping in. For him coming in and having a full off season with him, and even getting through this bit of camp to start off, the normalcy at quarterback is what I appreciate the most." Talking about Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you got guys like he's got a left guard and he hasn't played a lot in the last 2-3 years either. But if you're there like Joe Thomas, who just went in the Hall of Fame from the Cleveland Browns, like he said, how many left guards he played with, and he blocked for more quarterbacks than any other left tackle in the history of the game. You can't develop consistency. Yeah. You can't develop a good team. It just doesn't happen.
Also says, as he sees it, Love is everything he could have hoped for, like how Love has commanded the huddle, handled checks, and used his cadence variation in a way that keeps the defense on its toes. It's at the very least to him a good sign that the train that Rodgers conducted for all those years is still on the tracks.
Yeah, and I think that probably says more than LaFleur.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
What Bakhtiari just said.
Yep, I totally agree. I think that's the biggest thing. We all knew the coaching staff and, the GM would all have, the back of Jordan Love. But to have your teammates, to have the support of your teammates, I think is the biggest thing. And
you wouldn't expect anything any different. But still, Bakhtiari, hey, I'm all pro. I'm the senior statesman, so to speak, on this team, and I've got this to say, and I think the kid's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully. We'll take a quick phone call before we have to head to break. Good morning. Who are we chatting with?
Hello?
Hello. Good morning.
Hi. I'm trying to get to the Dan Kasper Show.
This is, you're on it right now on the air.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you guys were talking about Hard Knocks with Rodgers. So if you watch the episode, everything in the episode revolves around Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of funny because he didn't want to have anything to do with the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's literally, I think there's 2 scenes that don't have anything to do with them. And it's kind of funny when you watch it because the Jets, like they're showing Rodgers throw like little 5-yard out passes, and they're like, oh my God, I've never seen a quarterback do this before. And it's just kind of laughable throughout the whole thing.
So it looked to you like it was kind of scripted to favor Aaron Rodgers. That's what I was questioning, how much say he's got in this of what you can actually include of me in this thing. And it looks like it has to be favorable to include Rodgers.
Yeah, and Hard Knocks usually shows like rookie stories, people trying to make the team, and that was basically missing from the whole thing. I mean, there's a good part of the episode where he just meets Liv Schreiber, who does the voiceover for it, and how excited Rodgers was to do that. And it was, like I said, it was pretty self-serving for Aaron Rodgers, which, again, hypocritical for him saying he didn't want anything to do with the show,
right.
But then is the face of the show. So
yeah, what a surprise, self-serving for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I know. And the further he gets away from being a Packer, the kind of, I think more fans are going to realize that what he was about, even in Green Bay. And again, it shows a big part of it is him showing Zach Wilson, or helping Zach Wilson too. And I know he helped Jordan Love, but I don't know, like, if it ever was to that point. And I don't know if that, is because Jordan Love was drafted to replace him, and he came in to replace Zach Wilson. So that part was kind of interesting, and kind of looking back on his time in Green Bay.
In other words, it's not must-see TV. It's just if you're an Aaron Rodgers follower type of thing.
My wife, she watches it with me, and she was like, she likes Hard Knocks because she likes building the team, and that was just.
All right, we're losing your signal, but we got the gist of what you think about it. Yeah, thanks for checking in with us.
And that was something I had seen too. That I saw some people. I haven't watched it. I plan on watching. I haven't had time to watch. Probably be a weekend thing, but the one thing that a lot of people noticed too. He mentioned the Zach Wilson thing, and I saw a lot of people talking about that. How he was really open to mentoring, Zach Wilson, and I know one thing that probably draws the ire of a lot of Packers fans is that, and even Aaron admitted that he's more easier on the guys, not as, I mentioned that quote from a Bengals player about the young wide receivers where he's like, I know A-Rod was on them last year for dropping balls and that. And Aaron, I guess the Jets had a little bit of a poor practice yesterday, and I was reading about this morning, and Aaron was a little bit more calm, cool. He's like, yeah, we'll get there. We're working on it and all that. And I know Aaron, first mentioned a few weeks ago too, he's like, hey, I'm just, I'm paraphrasing here, but, working on things I could have done better in the past. Essentially saying he's not going to be as critical with his new teammates and be as hard at them as maybe he was during Green Bay, which I know drew the ire of a lot of Packers fans.
And that's why I think this Hard Knocks is going to be cotton candy and ice cream. I remember watching Hard Knocks when it first came out, before it was on streaming and they're up in the cloud and every place else when you get it on TV. And, they had like the Oakland Raiders. All those guys were Oakland. They were hitting each other with their helmets and fighting in practice. And, I don't want to see kumbaya.
Well, you know what it's kind of reminding me of? And I think it might have been Dan Patrick that had his polls. But we're probably not the best audience for this being, in Packers country and that. But I remember I said it when Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers. I'm like, I kind of like Brady now because we're seeing it was like a different version. He was a little bit out there. He was a little bit more personality.
Well, you couldn't do that with Belichick.
Right. So it's like, and now I feel like with this, there was even a poll from, like I said, I think it was from Dan Patrick. Is Hard Knocks or is Jets version Aaron Rodgers making him more likable? And that was a poll out there.
He's trying hard to make it that way.
And I'm like, well, it kind of reminded me of like when Brady went to the Buccaneers. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of liking some of the, he's on Twitter, he's doing funny stuff and all that. I'm like, oh, but I feel like that's probably maybe for some people out there too. Like, oh, this guy kind of seems pretty cool.
Well, that's
because there was a clip from Hard Knocks from some of those Jets players I saw online where one of the players said he'd like grab the mic, the boom mic or whatever it is. He's like, whatever they say about Aaron on TV is wrong. So it's like, okay, you've known the guy maybe for 5 minutes, sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what they put on TV is fine, but I just I don't think I think it's going to be kind of a control. I don't want to say censored, but kind of a controlled Hard Knocks versus some of the original Hard Knocks when they were with the Raiders and some of these other less functional teams, so to speak. It was fun to watch because I would think that, when Gruden was there, I mean, that who knew what was going to happen? And some of these other teams, I think they did it in Seattle once or some other places, and they got after it and they showed that. So I don't know if they'll show that or if the track with the Jets and what they have to do to clear it with Aaron Rodgers is going to allow for any of that. I don't know.
Because, this is where I saw it too with that practice yesterday. You go to the mothership, ESPN.com, top headlines. It's like the fourth one on there. Jets sense Rodgers' frustration after spotty drill. It's a story.
I
think everybody's waiting for him to say something.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, and what their first 4 games are pretty tough task.
When they open up with the Bills, I think.
Yeah,
is it?
And they got some tough games. I think they got the Cowboys in there, and but I think too it's going to be interesting as this goes along. Are we going to hear relax? or are we going to hear something else?
Yep. I don't know. You excited for preseason game number 1
tomorrow?
tomorrow?
I can't hardly sit still.
You know I am. So
I know you are.
I am geeked up, man. So, all right, let's switch gears here a little bit. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to play a portion of my conversation with Tom Poquette.
Yeah, are we getting any comments back from the?
It's about 50-50 right now with the Jack
Okay,
Nicklaus, Nolan Ryan
and
thing.
And I have no problem with that because I think both are fantastic feats.
Yep. So it's about 50-50 right now.
All right.
So, but let's take a quick break, and we'll play a little bit of that conversation. Then we got receiver defer coming up after that. The Eau Claire Express are back at Carson Park tonight. They picked up a 1-0 victory over the La Crosse Loggers last night in La Crosse. They now finish up their regular season with the game against La Crosse tonight at Carson Park, and then the final two against Wilmer on Friday and Saturday. Then the postseason begins. Don't forget you can get your Eau Claire Express playoff tickets visiting the office. Head to the Express website. You can check it out over there too. And Saturday is fan appreciation night, but also Tom Poquette bobblehead night. Tom Poquette, former major leaguer, spending a lot of time, a lot of his career with the Kansas City Royals. Spent a little bit with the Boston Red Sox as well. Was also a hitting coach. Spent some time as a minor league manager too. But he is an Eau Claire native, graduating from Eau Claire Memorial. But I had a chance to chat with Tom Poquette yesterday for an extended conversation. If you want to listen to that entire conversation, you can check it out on the Eau Claire Express podcast that we do, the All Aboard, the Eau Claire Express podcast, available on your favorite podcasting platforms or at sportstalk1051.com. Also available on the Man Cave podcast. You can check it out over there too, the Man Cave podcast. And you can check it out there on your favorite podcasting platforms. But let's listen to our quick conversation with Mr. Tom Poquette, former Major League Baseball player. You know, who are some of the pitchers that you faced that maybe gave you the fits or was the toughest pitcher that you faced?
Well, yeah. Number one that does come to mind was Nolan. Nolan's got everybody in his book.
Yeah.
I don't care if you look at his book, I don't care who they are. He did his thing against a lot of people, and he's got me in there too.
I don't think anybody's going to break that strikeout record from Nolan.
No, I mean he's legit. And the thing about what amazed me with Nolan, he was such a guy that would work out continuously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go to the ballpark early, you go to the ballpark 2:00, he's out there running, and he always kept his legs in shape, and he used his legs. He threw hard. Then he developed the curve ball, and then when he did that, it was, I think he was in Anaheim at the time. I remember him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had got traded to Boston, and we were playing him. I was playing that day, and I think Freddie Lim was out that day, and I was playing center field, and he had both pitches going for him. I mean, he was good. And I think we got 4 hits that day, and I got 3 of them.
Nice.
And every one of them were just made the infield.
hit me thousands of balls out there. Ted Williams. I mean, you sit back as you and I, Ted Williams, it's and I know he appreciates the talent that he had and the knowledge he still has, be able to take part and mingle and interact with the superstars of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't dropping names. He was using names as a matter of fact that he interacted with that helped him. And it's those guys are fun to listen to.
And he mentioned too, there was when he was, I think it was when he mentioned he was in Eugene, but one player that he managed that the team had just drafted and is still playing, some guy named Zach Greinke. So he was,
really?
yeah, he managed him when he first came up, was Zach Greinke. And he was talking about pitchers, going into their 40s and that, and Zach Greinke is one of them that is still going out there right now too. So really cool stuff. And I just, when he's talking about some of that, just kind of imagining that, and he's calling George Brett just George, just that sort of stuff. So,
but it's nice that he is still sharing his knowledge with younger players.
Yep,
and help.
I
got a lot to share with hitters.
I was kind of watching you when he was talking about the mindset. Home run balls are great, but you still need to do that. I'm like, you talk about that all the time.
He's talking about those statistics, and I was listening to that too to see what now they got statistics for everything. And he more or less saying when we were there, we just went out and played. And like he said, it's nice when you hit a home run. That's a run for your team. But you go out in the field and you give up 4 runs, that's not so good. So I think the statistics is listening between the lines. Statistics are part of baseball nowadays, but the good old days were better when you just went out there to win the game.
Yep. And I know at the beginning we because he said he had to make a decision when he was drafted. I mean, he was drafted right out of high school here. He graduated from Memorial. He had a full ride offer from Wisconsin to go play baseball. So he told the story. He was like sitting in, I think it was his living room. His dad was there, and I think it was somebody from the Royals, or maybe it was the Badger coach, making the pitches to him, and said, "What do you want to do?" And he looked at his dad, and he said, his dad said, "It's your life. It's your decision." So he decided he wanted to play baseball right away. So
good decision.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially with a Badger baseball program, which, wasn't exactly a stellar program. And of course now, and I'm thinking back of the day, he would have been about that time when the program disappeared. When Pat Richter took it out. I trying to relate that era, but no, I think he made a good decision to do what he did.
Yeah. I know, what was it? Oh, and the fun nugget I found out too, his dad's from Medford.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because he mentioned it too. He's like, "I know you're from Medford." He's like, I've been there. My dad. I'm like, holy cow, yeah. So he's a little Medford connection there. Yep. So, all right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll do some receive or defer. We'll get see what everybody had to say about the Jack Nicklaus Nolan Ryan question that Bob threw out a little bit earlier. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Just a few minutes to the top of the hour. So earlier on, intern here had thrown out a receiver defer question. What was the most impressive feat, or what's more impressive? Both are incredibly impressive, but we were talking little Nolan Ryan and that, and no hitters, and we know Nolan Ryan has the most no hitters, but he also is tied for the most one hitters, which is at 12. Then you got Jack Nicklaus, who has the most major championships, but he also has the most runner-up finishes in major championships, which was at 19. If you had to pick between which one is most to go with, and it literally is 50-50 right now, but I'll just say a couple comments were Jack had to do it himself. Ryan had a defense. Nolan's more impressive. Jack never punched Robin Ventura. So.
Yeah, I don't think he ever punched Arnold Palmer or Johnny Player either, or Lee Trevino or any of those guys either.
So it's 50-50 at this point. Pretty darn close, which, I mean, it's a really good question. It really is. And
it's a thought-provoking question.
It is. I think I kind of go to Jack a little bit, but like you said, I could be convinced either way.
Yeah.
If I had to pick, I might go
I
Jack.
think I'm leaning to Nolan Ryan. Everybody out there has played both games. And yeah, golf is a hard game. That hand-eye coordination and the golf courses they play and the weather conditions that they've got to play in. But baseball is that's unbelievable what he has done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable what Jack has done. And I just, from standing in a batter's box, never even coming close to facing anybody like Nolan Ryan, how tough that is and how good he must have been. And, we've all had a little success on a golf course. We've all, you make a birdie or two, you play a really good round of golf, and you think, my golly, I'm pretty good. But there's no way you can compare yourself to a guy like Jack Nicklaus. Just no way in the world. Like I said, it's 50-50. Me, it's 50.5 to 49.5. I mean, I'm that close, but I'm going Nolan Ryan. As much as I love Jack Nicklaus and what he did.
Did you have any more receiver defers?
Yeah, receiver defer. The Brewers are at 62 wins right now. Receiver defer. The Brewers will get to 90 wins. That means they got to play 28 and 18 the rest of the year.
I'll defer that.
So will I.
I think it'll be in the high 80s.
Yeah, I think they're about 87, 88. Will that be good enough to win? I don't know, but I don't think they're good enough offensively. Pitching-wise, most of the time, some of the bullpen once in a while will come in and self-destruct like they did the other day, but I don't think they can go they haven't been 10 games ahead above all year hardly, maybe once or twice earlier.
Yeah, a couple times they were, yeah.
But they can't sustain that, and I just don't think they can go 10 games, 28 and 18 the rest of the way. I hope they do, but I don't think so.
Did you have another one?
No, that'll do it.
Receiver deferred, do you think eventually Cal and Stanford will join the Big Ten?
Yes, I receive that. I just don't see any benefit for them joining the ACC. Travel purposes, if they have to come across the country to Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin, that's a whole lot easier. Now, I know Rutgers and Maryland are also in the Big Ten, but, half their schedule is going to be 4 or 5 trips to the East Coast to play ACC teams. I know Notre Dame plays in the ACC as far as football is concerned with their schedule, but I think for travel purposes, I think for money purposes, Stanford and Cal are both academically out of this world, but endowment-wise, they bring in more money than, Catholic Church on Christmas morning. But, they just, it's a money game, and I think they've got to look at the money. Does the Big Ten.
Yeah, we don't have enough time. I'll bring this up after our news update before we get to Jake here, but Chip Kelly has his suggestion on what the realignments should look like. I'll quickly tell you what he said, then you can think about it here. Notre Dame is an independent in football, but they're in a conference for everything else. Why aren't we all independent for football? Take the 64 teams in Power 5, make that one division. Take the 64 teams in Group of 5, make that another division. We play for a championship. They play for a championship. No one else gets affected. Our sport's different than everybody else. We only play once a week. Travel's not a big deal for football, but it is a big deal for other sports. That's my theory, but I don't have a vote. So think about that. We'll discuss it coming up after the break. Rest of you, what do you think of Chip Kelly's making pretty much all the top power college football programs out there independents like Notre Dame, no conferences or anything like that? What are your thoughts on that? Hit us up with some text, 715-830-1912. All right, we got 2 hours in, one more to go. We'll be back after these quick news updates. All right, third and final hour on this Thursday morning, August 10th, kicking off right now. Hopefully all off to a fantastic start, and big thanks for tuning in here this morning. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll catch up with Jake Bulks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden. I know next week those antlerless tags are gonna be going on sale, so might want to set some reminders to make sure that you get those tags and such. So, but we'll catch up with Jake. If you have any other questions, text those on over right now, 715-830-1912. This is your last call, so we can get those to Jake. So before we went into break, I went through that Chip Kelly quote about the conference realignment for football only. Your first thoughts on it, intern?
Everybody would be independent, but everybody wouldn't be equal. That
Mhm.
would be my concern. And how would you get scheduling so that you could compare? Now they're in the conferences, and you can kind of compare with the scheduling. But all of a sudden, if Wisconsin wasn't in the Big Ten and didn't have those teams, well, now maybe you'd play, Washington State, who you'd be expected to beat. You tried to schedule all teams that you could beat. Well, we're undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, I don't see. I'd see independent, but I don't see equal. I don't think the scheduling would be done the way it is now. I just don't understand what he's trying to get at there. And from the way I'm interpreting it, I don't see how they would be equal. All these schools would be equal, and trying to pick teams to play in the playoffs with that kind of a situation, I don't see how it could be done fairly.
I think too, I mean, the first thing that I thought of would be you're really putting it more in the hands of voters to put those teams in the college
Exactly.
football playoff, then, right? Which a lot of people already have issues with.
Exactly. And this, I think, would go more to a subjective decision on who would be in the playoffs rather than objective with results oriented. Now, it's not a perfect system we have now, but I think his system would make it more subjective. And boy, that's when you really, really have a problem. You really get some issues.
Yeah, because you make everybody independent. Obviously, I mean, everybody's not playing everybody, so you're going to have a lot of like, well, this 10 teams undefeated or whatever, anything like that. Then you're going to have all the debates about, well, this one's actually better than this, that, and the other thing. And
yeah, I don't see where that would help solve the problem to getting to a true national champion. I think now it's not perfect, but I think it's pretty accurate. The national champion is pretty much who really gets in the playoffs and ends up in that championship game. I think we've had better champions and more deserving champions the last few years, but I don't see how that would work under his system.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, you already have, the TV deals agreed upon and all that, and nobody's going to go back on that and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's not going to happen.
No, I don't think it's going to happen at all. And I think, some of those guys from the lesser schools would rally around that. But, and Wisconsin is not nationally recognized, but Wisconsin football is not a national power. We're recognized as really a good program, and maybe 1 year or so we can catch fire. But can you, if you're an independent, can you create that fire artificially, so to speak, through scheduling? And I think that's what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like going back to our receiver defer question, you look at Stanford and Cal, and they're still in that really small Pac whatever conference you want to call it right now.
Pac-4. That's
Pac-4.
all it's left.
I know there was some talk, would they go to Mountain West? And I'm like, I don't, Mountain West, that I think they would immediately be the two top teams in that conference. But
well, all four of those teams would go to the Mountain West, which would greatly improve the recognizability, for lack of a different word, of the Mountain West, and improve their stock probably, as far as, although neither Cal or Stanford have been a football power the last few years. Stanford was, but not so much the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like they're going to be in the Big Ten.
I do too.
I feel like
think that's where they're going to come.
And we're going to be up to 20.
Yeah, a lot of reasons, and I think that will, I shouldn't say max it out, because who knows how long before, they get anxious and want to add even more. But I think too, Cal, and I feel sorry for Washington State and Oregon State. Where are they going to end up? I mean, it was a perfect fit for all those schools in the Pac-12 out in the West, because you had Washington State, Oregon State. You had Cal and Stanford, UCLA and USC kind of fit together. So like for basketball, it's perfect. You go those places, you play one night, take a rest, play another one the next night or next day. And I don't know where those two schools are going to end up. I'm not worried about Cal and Stanford. They've got enough national chutzpah or whatever you want to call it, that they're going to end up someplace that's going to be good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Washington State and Oregon State are the two that could be, on the outside looking in somewhere.
Yeah, I'm actually reading something from the AP just a day ago, and this a little bit outdated because it says Stanford, Cal are talking with ACC, and I know last night there was a report that nothing's voted on, but it sounded like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, Notre Dame is figured in there because they play a football schedule with the ACC, and they're putting their 2 cents in. Which way that might sway the vote or the decision, I don't know, but Notre Dame's going to be part of something.
You think they'll end up going into a conference, or do you think they'll still remain independent?
I think they'll remain independent.
Yeah,
because they'll still play USC at that traditional game in the fall in Indiana, or the last game of the year, so to speak, out in California. I don't think that's going to change. I think UCLA is, I think this is a boon for UCLA to come into the Big Ten. And I just don't think Notre Dame is worried.
Mm-hmm.
I think Notre Dame thinks we're Notre Dame. We can do whatever we want. And so far, they're getting away with it. Well, how long that will hold, and if it will hold for very much longer, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to depend on if NBC will renew that contract with them. And I don't know what benefit they're getting out of that, because if they got a game Notre Dame playing Boston College on NBC and Fox or ESPN has Ohio State, Michigan, who are you going to watch? I don't know how much value NBC sees in still having Notre Dame with that schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, but interesting times in college football indeed. Well, at least we get kickoff in 3 weeks from Saturday for the Badgers, at least.
You bet.
Coming up here. So you're going to that game, right? I think
planning on it. You bet.
Buffalo coming to town.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go to Buffalo or not. I get tickets for the Brewers that day and the Badgers, so I don't know which one I will decide on.
Then you got what? Oh, they're at Washington.
They're Washington, I think, on the 9th of September.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, like I said earlier, that could be an interesting game, because Washington State could say, we beat you last year. We're going to do the same this year. We're going to show you that we belong in the Big Ten. We can beat Big Ten teams. And, like I said, Wisconsin has been recognized as one of the better Big Ten teams the last 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And last year was a down year for the Badgers. Washington State came into Madison and took it to them and led to the downfall of that program under Paul Christ.
Yep.
And to where it is now. And hopefully they didn't let it fall, and it's, going to be back on top again. But Washington State could come out with a real axe to grind.
Remember, their head coach is, he played college ball at UW-Stevens Point, Washington State, Jake over there too. So
they've got the transfer running back from Wisconsin. Came into Madison with he really wanted to get the Badgers. He did a nice job last year too. I can't remember his name, but he transferred to Washington State. Didn't think he got enough playing time, and he wanted to show the Badger coaches that you should have given me more playing time. And he did a nice job. What their attitude will be this year, whether they're depressed because they're kind of being left out of this whole picture. Washington State and Oregon State, the only time you hear about them is what's going to happen to them. They're left out. Nobody's talking about, we want Washington State, we want Oregon State in our conference. You're not hearing any of that, just that they're being left out of the conversation. They're in the Pac-4. What's left of the Pac-10 or Pac-12?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what their attitude's going to be.
Yeah, Nikhil Watson was the running back you're thinking of that transfer over there. So, but yeah, gosh, it's still hard for me to fathom all this. Like, I'm so confused. I'm not gonna be able to. It's still gonna be weird for me to see these Pac-12 teams in the Big Ten. It's gonna take a while for me to get accustomed to that.
Yeah, it is, and I'm waiting for the realignment. How they're going to do it?
Yeah,
and I hope they go to 4 divisions, not 2.
right.
Because I just think there's some schools are going to be few and far between. Like I remember years and years ago in Indiana, rose up, won the Big Ten, went to the Rose Bowl, and that's it. And that's been when I was a kid. And I think schools like that are going to be really left out.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Unless they go to divisions of 5 schools where, you've got a chance to win that division.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. If there's 2 divisions, there's no way.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and man. And Wisconsin's kind of, if they do that too, they're at that point. I think they'd be in the West still, but
yeah, geographically, we're could be the
right in the middle there.
Right in the middle. That school that could go either way.
Depends on if they add those 2 more on the West Coast. I know that rumor that they were kind of looking over at the East Coast too. North Carolina and Virginia were mentioned as possibilities, and if that's I don't want North Carolina in the Big Ten just because it's just, to me, that first of all, I don't think of them for football. It's basketball. They got to be in the ACC with Duke and play that over there.
I don't know what the advantage for the Big Ten would be. Maybe somebody can figure it out better than I. Virginia, North Carolina versus Cal and Stanford.
I think it's more for
geographic?
Just footprints in like every part of the country. They want to get to the South. It sounds like they want to get SEC country. Which, good luck. I don't know who else is. Florida State, maybe moving or something. I don't know, but that's a possibility, I guess. But I think Florida State would most likely go to SEC.
Oh, I would think they would too.
So, but
unless
Clemson,
they look at it like they might have a better chance in the Big Ten, but then they're going to be in the Big Ten East, and that's Ohio State, that's Penn State, that's Michigan. I don't know what their logic is. Is it all dollars? Is it competitive balance? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I would rather see Cal and Stanford than it's just
like, I don't want Clemson to be. It just seems weird to say, like, if Clemson were ever to go to the Big Ten or something like that, or Florida State, those teams. I mean, I guess it's all weird right now to begin with. So it doesn't really matter.
I think Clemson's crossing their fingers that this doesn't change because they're in the ACC and they can win the ACC hands down all the time. They go to the SEC or they go to the Big Ten. Well, now the dynamic has changed because the competition is going to be a little bit tougher week in and week out than you have in the ACC. Mm-hmm. Basketball is one thing, but football is another animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Clemson's just kind of holding their breath that don't mess with the ACC. Leave us alone.
Yeah, because right now, for football, it's them and then Florida State. Is the.
There's not a lot out there that they have to get over to win in that conference.
Yep. So, oh boy. So that's another day. I'm sure we'll find out more about Cal and Stanford at some point in the next couple of days here, but they're desperate now. And then, I kind of feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State because they're just like, hey, what about us? Anybody want us?
Yeah, they're the redheaded stepchild out there. Who wants them?
Raising their hands in the back of the classroom saying, don't forget about us. Pick us. Last people picked in gym class right now.
Right. I'll take you and you play right field.
Right. Yeah. Hide you between the two, center fielder and someone out there and just kind of stand there and, see what happens. But
and I don't know what the breakdown of money is. I mean, I heard the split in the Big Ten is $50 million a school. I don't know how that compares to, the TV rights and everything with the SEC and with the ACC. And I know the Pac-12 was seriously lacking. They couldn't land a contract with a major network, and that's why they kind of folded their tent. But I don't know how the Big Ten payout compares with SEC and the ACC and, of course, the Mountain West, some of those other conferences, Big 12. I don't think those schools come close to what the Big Ten gets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
SEC would be the next, but I'm not sure if they're in that $50 million category like the Big Ten is. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We'll keep you updated if anything pops through, though. So I don't know anything will pop in the next 40 minutes or so that we got here. But coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll catch up with Jake here. Reminder: there is no Brewers game today. Off day for the Crew after their walk-off victory yesterday afternoon against the Rockies. They got the White Sox, but then those tough series coming up against the Dodgers and Texas after that. I'm excited to see those games. Just for a matchup, I know it's going to be really tough for the Brewers, but just another litmus test to see where this team's at, middle of August with a month and a half left to go, final quarter of the regular season. You think you're a playoff team? Well, here you go. Here's against two of the best here. Let's see how you match up on the road.
And I wonder when a guy's sitting in the dugout, you watch a guy like Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman. I mean, they hit so easy. And the Brewers, Yelich, when he's going well, can hit that easy. But for the rest of them, like Adames, it's been a challenge. And and as good as some of those guys have been in short spurts, they don't do it on a season-long basis like like the Freemans and the Mookie Bettses and some of those other guys. So it will be an interesting series to watch.
It's got to be incredibly frustrating for, and you could say this for any sport or any athlete and that, but, like in baseball for a player who, has had success in his career, and I kind of use it as a golf example here too, but, as a hitter, Christian Yelich obviously has bounced back, but, a guy that has had success, he's put up numbers before, batting average, home runs, and then for whatever reason a season, it's just not clicking. It's got to be incredibly frustrating for that player to mentally go through that. And, we've all kind of been in a similar situation to that, whether it's, your golf game for a few weeks is just now working, or whether it was high school or college or whatever. But, you get into these, then you start to really overanalyze and really start to think about it. And that sometimes gets you in more danger when you try to do that. But it's just got to be at the pro level too. I have to imagine how incredibly frustrating it is for a guy like Willy Adames to be going through what he's going through right now, where he's had that experience. We've seen it, or with that success, we've seen it. And I mean, he's still got 18 home runs, but still you're looking at the other numbers and it's like, you try to figure it out, but sometimes maybe it's just bad luck or whatever it may be. But it's just,
if you've been up, and all of a sudden you hit a bad spot, that's bad luck. But I mean, we've got too many on this Brewer team that are consistently 200 to 220 hitters. That's not bad luck. That's who you are. And, I'm hoping Adames is not that one.
mm-hmm.
I'm hoping this is just a stretch that something's off, whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe we ask Tom Poquette what's the matter with Willy Adames right now. But, it was nice to see him hit that home run yesterday. Hopefully he gets back on track, because you can't have a guy, for so long he was batting third and fourth in that lineup. And even Contreras batting second. These guys are not producing.
Well, Contreras is.
Yeah, Contreras.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get down to the third and the fourth, Tellez, no, Miller, he got sent down. We got, they just, that's not bad luck. That's, you got something to work on.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to 2021 when Willie hit, 285 for the Brewers.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, if you want to look at it for when he was with Tampa Bay too, I mean, he was 262. His first year in there was 2018, 278. And then even last year for the Brewers for Willy Adames, where, he had 31 home runs, but he was a 238 hitter. His on base was 298.
And,
the last 2 years, he's been under 300 on base right now.
And I think that's acceptable for the, the wage scale that he's at and the production. But this year it just hasn't been working. Hopefully the little rest he got, and he can come out now, and the rest of the season, they've only got 46 games left, and, really, really hit it and come back, and they can win 28 and 18. I think they'll do that. They'll win the division.
28 and 18, if that'll be their record to get to 90. That includes the White Sox coming up here, Dodgers, Texas, Minnesota, Padres, Cubs at the end of the month. Man,
not easy.
No. Philly, which is playing good. Pittsburgh, Yankees, Miami, Washington, St. Louis, Miami, St. Louis, Cubs again. I don't know. I don't think they get 90 wins.
No, I don't think
I
they
don't
do
think they
either.
get 90 wins.
I'm
Man, that
rooting
Cup
for it,
series,
but-
how that thing has changed in the last month.
Yep.
Looking at the final series is against the Cubs. Okay, they're going to be sellers, and they, all right, kind of maybe nope. That really could determine a whole lot of who gets in the postseason or not.
Oh, no question about it.
Dang it! God dang it, man. So, well, at least the Cardinals are nothing.
Yeah,
I'm still going to be nervous when they face the Cardinals for 7 games in that final 2 weeks, just because I could see the Cardinals screwing it all up for the Brewers. I could see
they've
something
done it
happen.
before.
Paul Goldschmidt's still on there.
Yeah. Nelson Arenado.
I could see them screwing things up and knocking the Brewers down a few pegs.
They did let Flaherty go, and I was glad because Flaherty pitched well against the Brewers all the time. They did trade him away, so I was glad to see. I'm glad to see he's gone, but there's still the Cardinals.
Yeah. So 28 more wins. I just want them playing really good baseball when it gets to September and going to the postseason with momentum. Pitching's healthy, hitting's being consistent. Just play good, get hot at that final month. Like Philly did last year, like the Washington Nationals did when they won the World Series. Get hot, get in, use that momentum.
I'm with you 100%.
I just don't know if they can.
I know it. That's the thing. You got to hold your breath, and hopefully it can be done.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll catch up with Mr. Jake Boakes answering your outdoor questions after these quick words.
Like hard to clean, chalky residue on your shower, faucets, and bath, stains around your sink drains, spots on your dishes and glassware, plus dull, dried out hair and skin, and problems you don't see, like scaly buildup in the water heater and pipes. But have no fear, you're in the clear with Culligan Products and Service. For all your residential and commercial water filtration needs,
visit CulliganH2O.com for your local Culligan water dealer.
Hunters, are you looking for a brand new firearm to take with you to the woods? Or maybe you want to save a little money and are looking at getting a high quality used firearm? Whatever the case may be, if you're looking for a rifle for, say, deer hunting or shotgun for your turkey hunting adventures, look no further than Tilden Gun. Tilden Gun features a wide selection of new and used firearms. And if you're looking for a particular firearm, Tilden Gun will help you find that firearm for you. And plus, they have a wall of handguns for you to check out as well. And you know you're going to need some ammo, targets, cases, scopes, and other accessories too. Well, Tilden Gun has all the accessories you need to properly outfit your firearm to hit the woods. Tilden Gun has the biggest selection, all at the best prices in the Chippewa Valley. So here's what you do. You could visit tildengun.com to see what all Tilden Gun has to offer. And you could stop by Tilden Gun and check out their amazing shop and see what they all have in store. Visit Tilden Gun today at 12427 98th Avenue, Chippewa Falls.
The Shoe Doctor is known for quality footwear. Remember, the Shoe Doctor can keep your feet comfortable during all the different outdoor weather and activities here in the Chippewa Valley. Work boots, casual shoes, sandals, and more from brands you trust like Keen, Merrill, Chaco, and Dansko, and that's just to name a few. Located on Claremont Avenue in Eau Claire, you can also visit them online at ShoeDoctorFootwear.com. The Shoe Doctor, quality footwear for work, sport, and fun.
More than the scores. More than the news. It's Sports Out the Squeaker. The Dan Kasper Show. Answering your questions and giving you the tips you need to be successful and safe in the outdoors. It's time for your Outdoor Tidbits. Have a question you'd like answered by Jake? Send it to us, and we'll ask for you.
All right, it's time for our Outdoor Tidbits with Mr. Jake Bolks, Conservation Warden for the Wisconsin DNR. Good morning, Jake. How you doing, bud?
Morning. How's it going today?
Not too bad, buddy. Not too bad. I know next week it's kind of a big week coming up here, bud, because that's the antlerless tags going on sale. So probably I got my alarms already set to make sure I get my tags. Waiting in line.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast they go. So if you really are someone that's interested in getting a bonus antlerless tag for whatever zone, make sure that you find the date and find the time they go on sale, and either get in that queue online so you can get numbered, or get to the service center early so you can be standing there with the customer service rep so they can buy it for you right away.
Jake, with that, somebody had texted in, if your county or your zone is able to bait for deer, how early can you start baiting for deer?
So it's 12 a.m. the day before the season. So basically, starting, so if the season opens on a Saturday, Friday morning right away at, midnight, you can basically start feeding. So it's only like kind of 24 hours or just over 24 hours before. So you can't put out anything before. You can't. And then as a reminder, bait mineral, bag mineral, buck jam, any of that kind of stuff that's not your basic apples and corn stuff, that's all considered bait. So none of that can be placed out during the season if it's a no bait county.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there like a max of dumping corn, like gallon wise or anything like that?
Yeah, 2 gallons. So where you can bait or feed, when you're feeding them in counties where you can bait, you can feed them, and it's still a 2 gallon max when you're feeding them or baiting them. And that includes all sorts of it. So if you have a mineral block out somewhere where you can, then that's going to basically be your 2 gallons.
Okay.
Most of those are actually probably more than 2 gallons. So I always tell everyone, grab a couple gallon ice cream buckets, or you can go to the store and get an actual 2 gallon freezer bag. Grab those, and that's all that you can have out there at any given point. So that includes say you hunt Saturday and Sunday. Every day you go out, you can't bring 2 gallons. You can't go out Saturday, bring 2 gallons. Go out Sunday, bring 2 gallons. Unless the deer eat it all to nothing the night before. So you can only have 2 gallons out at any given point during your hunting experience.
Gotcha. That's a good tip right there too, Jake. So, somebody had texted in. I don't know if they texted in. Can you trap all year in town?
So there's a lot of aspects to that question, and if whoever sent it in can feel free to reach out to me or whoever the local warden is. But generally, first you got to find out if it's an open season for whatever you're trapping for. You can't trap for fishers, bobcat, different things out of season. Same with beavers, coons. Most species that aren't unprotected, there are seasons. You got to follow those seasons. Then you got to figure out if you are a landowner. If you're a landowner, sometimes you get an exemption where you can trap year round. The state doesn't really restrict where you trap unless there's, some special regulations on placement. But as far as like in town, out of town, the state doesn't restrict that. It's going to be the local government. So say you're in the city of Eau Claire, you're going to want to check any city ordinances that might restrict any sort of trapping. Or if you live in, say, the town of Washington, you're going to want to check their website and see if they have any information on trapping, because they're going to be the ones that might have some sort of like health and safety ordinance against it.
Jake, is there a difference between trapping to harvest the animal versus trap and release? Like I've trapped rabbits that have been in my flowers and taken them out of the country and release them. Can you do that all year round or not?
If it's a nuisance, if it's on your land or someone has like given you like the blessing to come in and be a nuisance trapper, there are some certain species that you can trap for year round, like live trap them and then release them. But even sometimes, like, you can't, I know this is extreme, but like if a deer is a nuisance animal, you can't trap a deer. If a bear is, or if a fisher is, a lot of times you can't trap them because they're protected and they have, open and closed seasons. So if you do have something that's, more than a rabbit or a skunk or something, you definitely just want to reach out to the local biologist and talk with them because they can get you special permits. But yes, if you have rabbits in your garden and you want to live trap them and release them somewhere else, you can. The main thing to remember is that if you're going to release an animal somewhere, it has to be on private property that you have permission. So you can't go out to state land or county land and just dump them off in the forest there. And you can't just go on someone else's private land. A couple of years ago, there was like a auto body business that had the same vehicle like pulling into their back like shop area week after week. And finally, like, we went out there and contacted him, and he was releasing rabbits, just like you were saying. And the shop owner wasn't mad, but he's like, you can't be doing that on my land,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, speaking of trapping, I don't know if this is, I got to ask you, it just came out at the top of my head because I remember this as a kid seeing it. I think it was like in a magazine or something like that. Can you mentioned trapping deer. Can you like trap deer? Can you dig a hole and put like a tarp over it so it like falls in the hole and all? Like, is that legal if somebody really wanted to go out there and do that?
For like deer or just in like animals in
like deer, like they dug this big hole. It's like you see it in the movies and they got like a tarp over it. And then, you walk on it and it falls through and they can't get out.
It's interesting. Yeah. It sounds like an old movie or something. Generally the answer is going to be no, because it's going to fall under some sort of harassing or disturbing or something with the animal. Just like if, you were walking along public land and you fell in a hole, that's going to be some sort of assault or something,
right?
For whoever dug that hole as a trap. So, there's open and closed seasons, and during the closed season, you can't do anything to deer, including harassing them, chasing them with drones, like anything like that. And then during the open season, that's what the laws state is. This is what you can do to harvest a deer legally. And that's not allowed in there. So I guess the short answer is no, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Or like those nets, whatever
there's nothing that says you can't as a hunter, as a deer hunter, like dig a hole and hunt, like, from the underground and stuff. I know a few people that have done that in the past. But you can't like make a trap for them to fall in.
Okay. That's what I was kind of wondering. But you can dig a hole and like hide in there and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you could hide from the ground. You can hide, or you can hunt from underground, from above ground, from wherever you want. You can put, a good question we always get is water a bait? Water is not a bait, so you can anywhere you can dig out a little, wallow or put in a little swimming pool if you want for deer and stuff like that. That's not bait.
Interesting. All right. Any other quick notes before the tags go on sale next week there, Jake, or anything you want to pass along?
No, the biggest thing I'd say is, everyone needs to make sure that when you're out swimming, tubing, boating, that you have life jackets. There's been a rush of drownings here the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. So everyone needs to make sure they have PFDs. And, for all the all the people, including all the college students that float down the Chippewa River, legally you have to have a life jacket with you when you're on a tube. I talk with people and educate a lot of people on that. You have to have tubes for the exact reason you have to have life jackets for the exact reason of if you need it, you want to have it. So just really, really pushing the life jackets this year, and then just make sure fall's coming. September 1st is the beginning of the waterfall, some of the early season. So if you are going to do some early season hunting, start buying those licenses now so you have them when you get out there.
Good stuff there, Jake. Hey, buddy, appreciate it as always. Always love getting the tips from you, buddy. You have a good rest of the week, and we'll catch up next week, okay?
You guys too. Sounds good.
You got it. There you go. Jake Boakes, Conservation Warden, joining us here this morning for our outdoor tidbits.
Would you ever dig a hole and hunt deer out of a hole in the ground?
I immediately thought of like a Rambo style.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Rambo or a Tarzan movie or something like that.
Oh, man. Hey, I just thought I know it's a little bit old here, but since we were talking college sports here, this was from Brett McMurphy. This was about 11 hours ago, but he just retweeted it. Notre Dame has been pushing to add Stanford and Cal to the ACC, but ACC league presidents did not vote Wednesday night on expansion because there is not enough support. SMU, though, has offered to join without taking any revenue in the first 5 to 7 years. So they just want to join to get in. And
I was going to say, it shows you how desperate some of these schools are to find some kind of affiliation. And, Notre Dame, I don't know, Notre Dame is Notre Dame, so they're going to be listened to. But they only play a football schedule of the ACC. They're not a member legally. I mean, technically, are they? I don't think so. I think they play a football
not for football.
Schedule. Yeah. And, I don't know.
Would that mean if ACC would get them, would Notre Dame then join?
Then you'd have to listen to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'd get that if we go out and reach out to Cal and Stanford and they say yes, but then you join.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what you say doesn't carry a lot of weight.
Because Notre Dame's in the ACC for basketball.
Yep.
So, I would. I mean, if Notre Dame would say, "Hey, you get these two, then we'll join," then you pass that thing. That shouldn't even be like a long meeting. I wouldn't think for the for the commissioners or presidents.
They hang up the phone and make that call. If Notre Dame says you get Cal and Stanford, we're there.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be happening.
Yeah, interesting though. There's got to be something for Notre Dame to be pushing that to happen.
Well, Notre Dame's got to be looking at the handwriting on the wall too. I mean, Notre Dame isn't what they used to be. Notre Dame was always the standard. Well, now Alabama and Clemson are standards. Ohio State is a standard, more so than Notre Dame. And so, yeah, they're the independent, mythical school, so to speak, but they're not what they used to be.
Yeah. I'm just reading a little bit here. Notre Dame, an ACC member in every sport but football, is pushing for the ACC to add Stanford and Cal. Notre Dame's initiated us bringing on Stanford and Cal and continues to push, yet Notre Dame won't join the ACC as a full-time member, an ACC source said. That doesn't make sense to us. So,
no, it doesn't make sense to me either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why push it if you're not going to be a part of it? So,
I mean, and they don't need the revenue. They've got enough money that they don't need that revenue. And that's why, $50 million per school, that's pretty attractive. And that's why USC and UCLA have come to the Big Ten. But tells you how much money Notre Dame must have.
Says the increased travel for the ACC members is one of the biggest drawbacks of adding Stanford and Cal. A source said financially, for all of our schools, it's probably a wash because of increased travel, another source said. So.
Oh yeah, that'd be a big expense. And if you go from Stanford, Cal to the East Coast, do you go on Friday?
Right.
Or do you go on Thursday?
Right.
Traditionally, these schools leave Friday morning and go to their Saturday games.
Mm-hmm.
But do they leave on Thursday now so they can get acclimated to the time change? I mean, that's 3-4 hours difference.
Because NFL teams do that. They'll leave 2 days early.
But they've got money.
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying they leave a couple days early.
They do.
That's
what I mean. That's increased expense.
Yep.
You got that increased night of hotels, meals. It's the difference in the dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. We'll take our final break here, and then we'll wrap up things on this Thursday morning. We do have some preseason games tonight, though, Bob.
Oh,
if you
good.
Vikings are one of them. If you want to check them out,
Never miss.
9:00 tonight. Late kickoff.
Then you know I'll be there.
10 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's cover some bases and wrap things up here on this Thursday morning. Packers and Bengals got another practice coming at it today before their preseason game tomorrow night. Although if you want, there's a couple of preseason games tonight, including Vikings Seahawks. That's at 9 o'clock. The first one is the Texans and the Patriots at 6.
Does Vegas set lines on these games?
I don't think for preseason.
I was going to say, I don't know how they could.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I don't think they will. So, but tomorrow's Packers game is it at 6 o'clock our time. So start your tailgating now.
I'm sure some people are.
I'll be doing it tomorrow.
There you go.
What the heck was that? That was a weird one. I don't know if you heard this. So we know Joe Thomas went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this past weekend, former Badger offensive lineman. And he was on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday, shortly after we got off the air.
I heard him. I was on the air. I was on the road, so I was listening.
Yeah, and cool shout out to Leroy Butler that he had on there. But DP had asked him about, Dion has been on this for the last couple of years about having tiers, for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, like if you're first ballot, top tier, whatever. And my question would be like, what are your thoughts? Not just for pro football, would you do it for like baseball or anything like that? Do you like the tier system? Like Joe Thomas was, he wasn't comfortable answering that question, and he brought up the Leroy Butler one. He's like, Leroy Butler was my idol. I had his poster, and he wasn't a first ballot. I mean, he just got in, last year, sort of thing. I understand where Dion's coming from, but at the same time, can you do it? I mean, I don't know if you can do that, really.
But you got to remember, Dion is Dion.
Dion is Dion.
I mean, he is, he the bling. He wants the camera on him.
He got mad. I remember, was it 2010, 2011 when they first did the top 100, and he was like the 35th, and he was mad.
Yeah,
he thought he should have been higher.
Yeah,
I love Dion, but
so do I. And maybe he should have been higher. He's a great player. He was fun to watch. He was prime time, and now he's trying to be prime time as a coach. And who knows? Maybe he will be. I don't know if Colorado is the fertile field that he thinks it is, but he has sure made some changes at Colorado already. But I don't know, and I can see both sides of this.
Mm-hmm.
First time eligible Hall of Famers, pretty special. They say, well, he's a Hall of Famer. Eventually, he'll be a Hall of Famer. Well, his career is over. He's either a Hall of Famer or he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how I feel about that. I hate to see the segregation of it because
it almost demeans it a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I think so too. All of a sudden you're like Joe Klecko, who got in this week too. Now he was a great player, Hall of Famer. No, was he the greatest defensive lineman? No. Was Joe Thomas the greatest offensive left tackle? The argument can be made that he was, but to differentiate that much, I don't know.
Like I look at a guy like Jerry Kramer. How long it took him to get in, and it's like to me, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. And like you said, I understand both sides of it. There's something, maybe being a first ballot Hall of Famer net, but sometimes you have to right a wrong. Like Jerry Kramer was a wrong that took forever to right.
Yes, that's right.
So it's not necessarily that he wasn't a first ballot. It was just people got it wrong.
And Sterling Sharp is starting to get more traction now for the Hall of Fame. I think we're going to see him in there before too long.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always said he's a Hall of Famer.
I saw this. This is a couple days old, but I saw these comparisons. I'm going to see if I can bring it up here about Sterling Sharp in his career compared to one Calvin Johnson. Let me see.
I was just going to bring that name up.
I'm going to see if I can find it here quick. So bear with me here for a minute or two. But
because Calvin Johnson was first ballot.
First ballot.
And I compared to some other receivers, great, but he didn't play long enough.
Nope. So Calvin Johnson, these were the numbers from his 4 best statistical seasons. 390 catches, 52 touchdowns, all pro 3 times. That's Calvin Johnson.
And deservedly so.
Sterling Sharp's best 4 seasons. More catches, 404, more touchdowns, 54, same amount of all pros.
Oh yeah, we think we said that all along. Yep. Sterling Sharp has been snubbed by the voters.
Yeah, because I think for a long time there was that negative connotation that if you didn't have a long career outside of Gale Sayers, you weren't going to get in the Hall of Fame, and that's changed over the last few years.
And rightly so. Sterling Sharp was a Hall of Fame performer. When he played, he was dominant.
Yep.
And that's all you can ask. And he played long enough. He wasn't a flash in the pan. He was consistent during his career, short as it was, unfortunately. But I think he deserves Hall of Fame credit. He really does.
And I think, too, it wasn't, a part of it. He got hurt playing the game. It wasn't like he left, he would still have played longer if he could have. He just physically couldn't go out there and play.
Couldn't take the chance.
Nope. I still remember that game, too, when he got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Watching that one.
Yeah, that was a shame to lose Sterling Sharp because he was – I just can't imagine the numbers he would have put up with Brett Favre.
Yeah.
I think Jerry Rice and Sterling Sharp would be head and shoulders above all other receivers. And I think he'd be right there with Jerry Rice.
Yep. All right. What else do we got on the docket here? As we mentioned, we've got off day today for the Brewers before they take on the White Sox there too. So we'll hit that up tomorrow.
And golf, don't they start the first of the playoffs?
That's right.
Today.
Yeah.
So that's that's a great story with Lucas Glover last week winning at the Wyndham to get into the playoffs. Now he went from I don't know where he was to 49th, and a great story, great comeback story too. That we talked about. He'd be an example of one of those guys that all of a sudden his game went south, and he worked and he worked and he worked, and he found out what needed to be done, and he got it done, and he won. And big, and it was great. His daughter and son were there. She was crying, and just the emotion of the family. And the little guy comes up, my daddy won, my daddy won, my daddy won. And he hadn't won for like 10 years. And so now he being back is a great story too. So it's going to be fun watching the playoffs. I keep thinking, is somebody going to get hurt and back out? So Justin Thomas, who finished 71st, was going to get in, but I don't think it happened. I don't think any of the top 70 backed out because of injury or anything else. So Justin Thomas' season is over.
Yeah.
He's an example of another guy that all of a sudden he's lost it.
Yep.
What's he going to do to get it back? And will he get it back? I expect he will, but he's not in the top. He finished 71. Adam Scott was like 72. So, and like you said, one bad hole during the year costs you a place.
So speaking of golf, I just saw this. It's the top story on the mothership. Phil Mickelson, we knew he likes to bet. According to a upcoming book by renowned professional gambler Billy Walters, Phil Mickelson bet more than $1 billion on football, basketball, and baseball over the past 3 decades, and even allegedly attempted to place a $400,000 wager on Team USA in the 2012 Ryder Cup in which he participated. $1 billion.
He's got a disease problem. He's got an addiction problem.
Yeah.
And that's why Liv bailed him out. What did he get, 200 million or something from Liv?
Yeah.
Because he was reports. Again, this is reports. I have no firsthand knowledge of this. The reports are that he was belly up money wise because of his gambling, and Liv bailed him out.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was a number that was that big. That's unfathomable for the average person. I mean, I can't imagine he was that addicted or is that addicted to gambling.
According to the book parts of the book here, Mickelson called this Walters from the country club during the 39th Ryder Cup and asked Walters to place a $400,000 wager for him on the USA team to win. Walters responded by scolding Mickelson. Have you lost your blanking mind? Don't you remember what happened to Pete Rose? You're seen as the modern day Arnold Palmer. You'd risk all that for this. I want no part of it.
But Mickelson, he's addicted that much. He didn't care. He didn't see that.
Yeah.
But I
remember USA actually lost that Ryder Cup by 1 point.
Did they?
Yeah, in 2012. So, wow.
Yeah, he's got a problem, and he hasn't made any new fans, I don't think.
No. Yeah, you mentioned in 2022, Sports Illustrated that his gambling had become reckless, embarrassing, and an addiction. That was 2022. And he said 2 months ago, I haven't gambled in years. Almost a billionaire now. Thanks for asking. Okay, well, that's kind of a pompous answer. A little bit
Very
there.
pompous.
Yeah.
But that's what he's become.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, because he was very much loved.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now he's seen as a villain.
Man. All right. That's going to do it for us. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have a good rest of your Thursday, everybody. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. We will talk to you then.